All right, we are live at the Microsoft MTC for the Dev Talk Show. I'm Chris Gomez, and we have Andy Schwamm, and we have Rich Ross in the back behind the mics and the cameras and pushing all the buttons and making sure that we sound great and that we look even better. And so clearly there's a lot of, he doesn't have to do that much to make us look better. I could have gone either way with that.
You could have gone either way.
I could have gone, he's working super hard.
Nobody would believe, right?
Yeah. So, and here we are on the 2nd of October, 2019. If you happen to be watching us from the future, thank you for joining us and let us know what things are like. But tonight we're going to talk about a few things that are some pretty recent news in the Microsoft space. I'd say there's probably two major things that have happened since our last show. One we knew was coming, and that was .NET Conf and the release of .NET Core 3. Mm-hmm. And then there were some things that maybe we didn't know were coming, because today was a hardware event for Microsoft.
Yeah, Surface, right?
Where they talked about Surface and all the new things coming with the Surface. Yeah, so I think, the Surface Pro line, you have a Surface Book.
I have a Surface Book, and I have a Surface Pro, like a Surface Pro 3, 4, something like that.
Yeah, my wife has a Surface Pro. I'm trying to remember which one it is.
And they're great. They're great devices. There's great devices. Now, we joke around about this device, by the way, which is kind of funny because I can't get the latest update of Windows 10.
On that?
Yeah.
It says the hardware's not ready.
It's some weird conflict, which is just kind of funny. Now, they say they're working on it. It's an established thing. I mean, in all honesty, they're kind of doing us a favor by not letting it have a problem.
Yeah, sure.
It is ironic, and I'm not being critical of Microsoft in this case, but it is ironic that one of their flagship devices doesn't support, and Rich is like, don't talk about that.
but no, so the other thing is, and so folks that are watching this on YouTube, you would be able to go and check the blogs and everything yourself, and you saw that there is a new Surface Pro form factor coming that's even thinner, even, I guess it's like sexier, the Surface Pro X, which has, the Surface Pro X has the ARM chip in it.
Yeah.
Running a new operating system. I don't know if the new operating system is really that important, but it's Windows X.
It is important.
The Surface Pro X isn't?
No.
No, I'm sorry. You're right. And you know why I get it confused? Because of that X labeling.
Yeah.
You're right. It's the other devices I haven't even mentioned yet.
Yeah.
So we can talk about, let's not worry about the OS. Surface Pro X. Yeah,
okay.
I remember.
Okay.
But the interesting thing is that it is running on ARM.
Well, that's what I was going to say. It runs on ARM.
Whereas Surface and Surface Pro have been on Intel for quite a while.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Surface Laptop's been on Intel for quite a while.
And it's actually a custom chip, right? That we worked on with Qualcomm.
Right.
SQ1 is the name of it, if I'm not
SQ1.
Right, it's like a Snapdragon derivative or newer version. Interesting, because I also found it interesting that the new Surface Book is running AMD Ryzen, or a form of AMD Ryzen, specially made for the Surface Book. Mm-hmm. And I thought, I don't hear Intel anywhere in both of those things. So that's very interesting.
It is running an Intel chip underneath, right?
Yeah.
At least certainly the laptop is. And I'm probably pretty low in the mix there, but so certainly the laptop is. And I forget the number on the specs on that.
And it's not that, I think there's still going to be Intel variants.
Yep.
It's just interesting now that more processors are getting involved, and it's still Windows. Mm-hmm. So that might bode well for what's been going on with Windows under the hood, that certainly we don't know. But it sounds like under the hood, it's able to do more. So that's work on more devices. Tagline, anything but ordinary, right? So what else?
Your screen? Oh, that's your screen. Okay, because I brought it up too. Yeah. So I might be mixing up the devices. I watched some of the stuff. I was watching some of the announcements. So there's the Surface Pro. I'm sorry. What we're talking about is the Surface Pro.
There was a Surface Pro 7.
Surface Pro 7.
Which looks like an iteration on Surface Pro 6.
That's the one that has the pen tucked in, right?
No.
Or am I mixing these devices up?
So this is kind of in the order in which the event went. You can go and check out the event. It's still up there, and it's a great hour and a half worth of content to go see how we kind of roll all these devices out. But Surface Laptop 3, and there are two flavors of that, a 13-inch flavor and a 15-inch flavor. The 15-inch coming with that extra, the AMD Ryzen chip, the Ryzen 7, I think is what it was. And then all kinds of great specs around that. So from a device both of those are what we talked about. Then we talked about the Surface Pro.
And by the way, we have a Surface laptop.
Right.
My son uses it sometimes. I mean, it's a great device. And I'm not just,
my wife has a Surface Pro.
I hate to sound like we say all this stuff all the time. Because
right, well, here's the Surface Book.
Yeah.
My wife has a Surface Pro.
Yeah, we have a Surface Book, a Surface Pro, and a Surface laptop at home. And they're good, yeah.
I got a book here that I use for work that I love. When my daughter went away to school last year, we got our Surface laptop.
Yeah.
And she's been rocking that for the last year and change. So, yeah, I mean, I love the hardware. I would love to get one of those new 15-inch laptops for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was the laptops, Surface Pro 7.
Surface
so the
Pro
next
7.
iteration on that. The one that has the pen, what they call that Surface pen, slim Surface pen.
Slim pen.
In the keyboard essentially was the Surface Pro X.
Yeah.
Oh, so that's the Surface Pro X. So they're both Surface Pros.
Yeah.
Both coming out at the same time.
Right.
Or maybe,
they're both supposed to come out later this year.
Yeah. No, later holiday 20. No,
I believe it's October 22nd, and it might not be that day for all of them, but that was one of the dates that were mentioned. I don't have notes on this, so I'm going off of what I saw this morning on the event.
You have better memory than me.
Well, what I felt like was that I felt like it was positioned as the Surface Pro X is where we envision this line going. Yeah. Where the Surface Pro 7, I mean, to call it an iteration is a little unfair, but same form factor, so it might remind you of the Surface Pro 6. But what of course I think they were ready in some respects to tease us into thinking, okay, we're just going to walk off the stage now. And then the Surface Neo was announced, which was the foldable device that kind of felt like it kind of could be a tablet, but then you could fold it, but then you could pull a keyboard out from underneath it.
Right.
Yeah.
Which I first thought was gimmicky, and then when I saw them do it a couple times, I went, now hold on. That actually does look really interesting.
Yeah. And it seems like the screen knows when the keyboard is on. It must be some magnetic, something sensor, right?
Yep.
And I guess there's that
the app
tab
can
at the
respond
top.
To it.
Yeah, right. There's that tab at the top that is sort of gives you extra features and stuff like that. But no matter where you put the keyboard, it will move that thing. So I thought that was like some interesting interaction between hardware and software.
And it looked like it changed a little bit, right? If you had the keyboard down low and you had the extra space up above, you got that what they call the Wonder Bar. Right?
Yeah, and you get like a touchpad. There's actually
that was the term I heard.
Okay, because I thought, you know what it made me think of is I said, this looks like somebody took and designed the touch bar correctly.
Yeah, it's a better version of the touch bar.
Didn't it feel like that?
Right.
Like
you're talking about the Fruity from the Fruity computer?
Yeah, that's some other computer brand. But
so when you take that keyboard and you actually slide it up, then you get almost like a trackpad component down the bottom, as opposed to replacing the Wonder Bar at the bottom.
Yeah, and then app developers, it looked like an app developer could use that space. It seemed to be. Granted, you're reading tea leaves from you're watching. Okay, what are they doing? What are they doing? But it was working in a messaging app. And then flip the keyboard up to maybe type a longer form message, and suddenly there were emojis in that area, and I was like, that makes sense.
Yeah,
because you might want to type, happy face, right?
And one thing I thought was interesting is when they showed it. Now again, I watched, this was a couple minutes of experience. We haven't touched this thing yet. So when you open it, I was surprised to see that it's not seamless. There's a line down the middle.
A real couple hinges.
But it seems like our eyes kind of can ignore that somehow.
When it was fully open?
When it was fully open, there's a line down the middle, but they showed things bridging it and stuff like that, and I thought, I don't know if it's in the way. It might be in the way, but it seemed like it sort of, your eyes train and ignore that thing. I mean, let's face it, we've been to places where we see, you go to a bar and they have 4 TVs together, and it used to be, not so much anymore, there used to be lines between them, but you kind of look past it. Your eye doesn't see that stuff. So,
and that is running the Windows 10X that we were talking about earlier.
Yes, so that's the new Windows 10X, so it can handle the 2 screens because there's 2 9-inch screens individually, and it's if you open it up and it becomes full screen size is I think they said 13 is the full diagonal across that. So that was one version of it. And then there was a cool video that basically showed the next version of that, which was, the Duo, which was pretty cool. Which is a slightly smaller iteration, if you will, 5.6-inch screens on both sides that fold up. Also running a version of Android that we worked on with Google. So
it's a phone.
Yeah,
that was interesting. But I've
heard rumors for years, for a while, that the next Microsoft phone would be running Android, and I was like, well, that's a good idea.
An easy thing to compare to. It's, oh my gosh, it's a phone.
But that's the thing. Everybody wants to call it a phone, and yes, you can run Teams on it, so you get that phone capabilities. And
so it's not a phone. You can't make calls.
I don't know.
Oh,
okay. I haven't seen it yet.
We don't know. Huh?
If you run Teams, yes, you can make calls with it, and that was shown in the video there. But if you think about what it is, it's an Android tablet. Doesn't necessarily mean that you have a phone, right? It's a version of Android that's running on that device. Yeah, that's all we know.
I guess that's true. Is that it was easy to run with that, and certainly plenty of the bloggers and writers.
Well, that's the thing. They all said is a new phone,
but they didn't actually go ring, ring, ring. Like they didn't. None of that was shown. So
and he didn't say phone, or did he?
And you can go back. The video's out there. You can go back and rewatch it. But he said you guys are going to call it a phone. You're going to call it a communication device. Fine. At the heart of it, and this is all of our devices like this. They're a Surface. And that's what it is. It's a Surface device.
Right.
Just like any of our Surface devices, you can do Teams and make calls. I can do it for my Surface Book. It doesn't make it a phone. So
and so I guess again, I'm not remembering which device is which because I have my memory is shot, right? But I think it was some of them are like connected. I guess the ARM ones are like like you have like always connectivity kind of thing.
Well, has the Surface Pro X has the LTE.
Has the LTE, right?
Yeah.
And so what I'm wondering is, like, when is that going to become like really the norm? And like, how's the pricing on that? When is pricing going to come down to that where it's just such a non-issue where we're just like, because I don't know, honestly, personally, like, do I want to pay, LTE? I don't know what would it be monthly? I assume you're paying, whatever, right?
Some people do that.
Sooner or later, though, I
today.
think this is going to become just a non-issue where like we're just connected all the time. Like my car's connected all the time.
Sure.
I think a lot of people feel 5G will get us there because of the speed will be enough.
Absolutely.
To start competing with our home internet.
Yeah, there's 5G, right?
But I mean, when it's here.
Yeah, and I think you're right. When you get to the point where connectivity is the same at home versus on the road.
Yeah.
Right.
It's not going to.
Then we might want our devices to just. What do I want to eat? What do I want Wi-Fi for? I'll just be on.
Just on, right? Yeah. And so that'll be kind of cool,
Mm-hmm.
And we're not. I don't think we're far, iteration wise. I mean, like I think the writing's on the wall that everything's going to be connected. I mean, I don't know what's going. Brainwaves are flying through our head with all this stuff, but that's why I look like this, right?
That's what
I had a full head of hair before
really 4G.
Cell phones came out. Yeah,
LTE is what did it.
Right.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah.
It's not genetics at all.
No.
So interesting hardware event, and then of course .NET Conf. Those I think you just brought up on the screen like the Surface earbuds, which they were demonstrated, and I think they have a mic in them.
They do. They're just like very much like the Surface headphones that came out.
Okay.
At least a year ago. I'm blanking on when they actually were released, but having that capability to do communication with them, to listen to your music with them, but they're earbuds, so they're a little less cumbersome, I guess.
Yeah.
Not noise canceling, right?
Wow.
That would be cool.
I don't recall.
Yeah.
I'll be honest.
I feel like they talked about noise
they
canceling.
And it would say it. I think I'm looking at it on the screen. It would be kind of neat. It would say it if it was noise canceling. I've got some I bought some inexpensive noise canceling wired earbuds a while ago. They work pretty good. It's interesting. The noise canceling technology has come a long way. Yeah,
I have a cheaper pair, so when I notice that it doesn't noise cancel like the world, but it will take the fan noise away.
Yeah, I mean on an airplane, mine's good enough.
Mm-hmm. No, I understand.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Right.
So maybe who knows? Next generation.
Yeah.
I did like the demonstration with the pen because I've been complaining about this for a long time, where she was drawing. And I was actually also just super impressed by the artist who very quickly drew a portrait in front of me, and I was, wow.
Well,
to watch somebody's skill at work, that was so awesome. But anyway, so she's drawing and then zooms in and then turns the thing around and uses like an eraser, and I almost threw him. I was like, finally, because I've been for the longest time I've wanted that metaphor to be erase, because to me that would be so natural to me. But it's taken so long to get here that it makes me wonder if the young folks are like...
What do you mean it's taken so long? We have that right here. This flips and erases.
Yeah.
I believe you if the Surface Pen does. I've just never had a Surface Pen that does that.
When we come out of here, we're going to show you the Surface Hub.
Yeah,
and that's got the same thing where you ink and then flip the pen around.
Yeah, okay.
This is good. Write this down because usually Chris knows way more, and I'm like, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. I got you today. I know. Hold on. Don't skim over the fact that I got you on this time.
No, you did. I didn't know that the Surface Pen did it because my pen doesn't do that. But I don't have a Surface Pen.
Really?
I don't have a Surface Pen.
Okay.
And I know that the Surface Pen is more fully featured than the other.
Was that in the
The HP Spectre pen, which is good.
Yeah.
But you can even look at the specs side by side, and it's less pressure points and less angle, less whatever.
But
it's not a Surface Pen.
Yeah. But don't skim past, by the way, with the feature that I thought was really cool. Like, this is nice, right? You can see it on the screen, I think, right? My Surface Pen magnetizes on it. It's pretty strong, but I don't feel great about it. I'm always worried about it.
You think it'll get knocked off?
Yeah, I take it off and I put it in my bag.
Right.
Yeah.
I love that idea of tucking the pen into the keyboard. I mean, because it's slim, and it's going to have a slightly different feel than this round pen, but I think you get used to that. I think, especially for on a smaller device, like a casual user like mine, I don't do extensive, I'm not that artist.
Right.
I think that's a great idea, and I was kind of excited.
I agree with you though about the fear of all it takes is you to just brush against something, and there it is, and then you walk away and it's all over.
Or Chris would just reach over when I'm not looking, and he's jealous because he doesn't have a Surface, and he steals it.
What am I going to do?
And he just pulls it over there. I don't know, but
But one of those things where you always know it's going to be in that slot.
Yeah, it's going to be in that slot,
and it's charging while it's there.
Yeah.
Which is
cool.
Does it charge while it's there?
These, I think they have batteries in them that seem to last.
They have a quad A battery.
It just feels like
it lasts a long time.
It does.
Yeah.
It just feels like it's always charged because
feels like it's always charged.
That's good too.
Copper top. It's the Duracell. I don't know what it is.
All right.
What else? What else you got?
So .NET Conf, .NET Core 3 is here.
It is here.
And I think everybody should probably see Scott Hunter's keynote, which I do have. I'm pointing to on YouTube, and the reason why I'm pointing it on YouTube, I don't know if you have that screen up.
So you need to hit the start menu.
Do I need to start?
Scan NDI.
Oh, look at that.
Oh, I thought, because it shut down before.
Yeah, just before.
This was great.
The show.
Like literally 30 seconds before, right?
Yeah, the music's on, and we're getting ready to go live, and Chris goes, hey,
this computer
just shut down and died because it wasn't plugged in or something, and it was classic live TV,
So I think Scan Converter's up now.
Sometimes takes a minute. All the cool
tech. So what's
that
happening is,
this
is going to beam this awesome video image, and I intentionally brought it up in YouTube.
There it is.
Because what I want you to see is that all of .NET Conf, the keynote, and all of the sessions that were presented by Microsoft Day 1 and Day 2 are in a playlist on the Microsoft Visual Studio account. So youtube.com, you want to subscribe or just visit the Microsoft Visual Studio channel, and there is this entire playlist for .NET Conf, which you can see all 32 videos there on the right. I think everybody should watch the keynote. I don't know that you would watch everything in the playlist because some of the stuff here, I mean, yes, you might be interested in some things, but maybe you're not really into Xamarin right now, or maybe you're into Xamarin and you're not really doing web.
But that's the beauty of the recorded content.
That's what's great is you can pick what you want to watch. But everybody should, I think, watch the keynote. And so, what did we see in the keynote? Was there anything in the keynote that jumped out at you and you said, wait a second, for all this .NET 3, we've only been talking about it for a year, I wasn't ready for that?
Well, I'm looking at my notes, and there's things that I didn't know. There was one thing that I didn't know about, which I thought was cool, which was that try convert.
Okay.
And I believe that was in the keynote as well, where they talked about how you can take a .NET Framework app and try to convert it to .NET Core. And I don't know. I think they did a simple demo, and I did a simple demo too, I believe, at home. I think I tried it once, and I was like, oh. Well,
did it work?
Yeah. Nice. But I mean, it was file new .NET Framework, so. Okay. But it worked.
Did they say were there certain reasons why it would work or
not?
I
don't recall. We could probably look on the website there while we're hacking around here and go to see if they have like a try convert.
So this is try convert is to say I have a .NET Framework application of any type?
It is, let me see what I wrote down. I wrote down here.
Do I have that right?
When you say type, mean like a web?
Well, web versus desktop versus... I mean, what did they
like
show?
A lot.
Well,
Yeah,
let's say, what did they? Let's just concentrate on what they showed.
They probably showed a console app,
right, and saying, okay, let's see if we can get that to basically it tries to take it from a .NET Framework application to a .NET Core application, which certainly there's a lot of challenges, because I can imagine one of the first challenges is just the whole .NET Core metaphor of startup in many of the cases, not all of them. I suppose a console app doesn't have to have startup, doesn't have to, but it could. But
I can't find the try convert thing. Rich, I don't know if you know where it is.
I'm pulling it up right now.
You got it? I must have found it. I thought I tried it. Maybe I didn't try it. Maybe I was just watching their demo and I imagined myself.
Does it sound like a tool that they wanted to take to only this far, or hey, we might be able to help a lot of people this way? Hard to say.
It's hard to say.
Yeah.
I think that
we've seen things like this before. Do you remember in the past there's been things like VB6 to .NET Wizard?
Yeah.
I know I'm going way back there. People have even written VB.NET to C# converters. They're tough projects to write.
Well, there's so many moving parts. I mean, that's, you said, like, can you convert anything? I mean, you got to, is it a Xamarin app? Or, I guess,
right. If it was easy to do, we wouldn't need to invent new platforms, right? We would just invent converters and just convert everybody. Just convert everybody, right? There'd be no migration steps.
What would be really cool is not only would they convert it, but they would take, like, my old monolithic app and automatically just break it down into microservices and deploy it on
containers
and
scale it.
Yeah. Oh, and unit test it for me, right? I mean, it should be great. I wouldn't have a job, but, it'd be cool.
So certainly,
it wasn't.
It sounds like what you're saying is that we do have work to do, which is good.
Thank gosh, yeah. So I don't know. I mean, did you see something that was so new that we didn't know about? I'm looking at my. I mean, there was things that maybe I didn't know about, but I think it was all. I think most of it was. We knew was coming.
Yeah,
right?
I think it was stuff because we've been playing with the preview for a while, right?
Yeah.
I think one of the things that I'd heard of and not seen in practice was the ML.NET.
Oh yeah.
Now I've done some of the things that we have with cognitive services and custom vision, and using something similar to what was done there, where you take a bunch of images and you classify them, which is what the person who did that part of the demo had played through. And it was a different way of doing it in that you had a folder structure that said, well, the images that are in this folder get tagged this way, and then running it essentially against the common underlying neural network, essentially. So a ResNet 18 network. So you have an option of seeding it with whatever images you wanted, and then defining whatever algorithm or machine learning algorithm you want to use against it. And this one was around image recognition. So it was interesting to see it done that way. I don't know if you're not a .NET developer already, are you really going to do that? Because in talking to people who do those kind of things, Python is kind of the way they would do it. And if I can do that in 3 lines of Python, which I think they do everything in 3 lines of Python.
I think they want to give people the opportunity to do it the way they want to, and make these things more accessible, because there are a lot of .NET developers who kind of want that stuff in .NET.
Yeah,
but you're right. I think if you're a real machine learning guru, or you really spend a lot of time on this. There are other libraries for that stuff.
I don't want to play it down. I think
I don't think you are.
Great point. I know how to do this. If I need to pivot a little bit and I can get a machine learning model going based on what I already know, that's awesome. I kind of walk it back to when we started doing containers in .NET, 3, 4, 5 years ago. It was all new to us then, and that was kind of a way for us to get started. I kind of look at it the same way here. But.
Yeah. I think the trick is, and this was one of the very earliest slides, we're only 20 seconds into the keynote, so I brought that up.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
This is, I think, a key mission of .NET.
Yep.
Is your platform for building anything.
Yep.
So, the slide that I have up here, I don't know if it's on live. Is they're showing they're showing that it's desktop, web, cloud, mobile, gaming, and then they add in IoT and AI, which represents the ML.NET part.
Yep.
So I don't think anyone would argue that a language like Python is, if not king, very high up in the machine learning and AI stack.
No.
Like, it is what experts reach for.
Yep, absolutely.
No one would argue that. Yeah. Partially because the libraries are there, they're well established. But that said, since .NET is any developer, any platform, any device, you want to concentrate on a .NET language and the platform, you're going to have access to AI.
Yeah.
You're going to have access to mobile. Is Xamarin the only way to do mobile? No. But it works.
But it works.
Right.
Yeah. And so you can do anything. I mean, it's really amazing how far this is, .NET Core has come.
Right.
And I've said it before, but we never thought we'd have desktop application in .NET
coming
Core.
Back to .NET Core, right?
I mean, I would have guessed if I don't know if I ever thought about it, but you could imagine that like the ML stuff would have come, because you think, well, future stuff, it's gonna, they're gonna.
We need cloud.
Yeah, you need right.
You need mobile.
Right. But
to say that, hey, there is a path where if you want to preserve your WPF or WinForms investment, that I don't think it's just recompile. But I mean, I guess to be fair,
try.net. Maybe try convert.
Maybe in some cases it is.
Yeah. Maybe try convert. Again, hypothesizing here, but if you build your application in multiple libraries, and you have your back-end libraries that are supporting your WPF application, right? Like, I don't know if try convert can convert a WPF application, but if it can it and you separate your libraries, and you have your UI library, your DLL for the UI, and you have DLL for the services, and all that kind of stuff in the back. Maybe it would convert that stuff, and you have a small footprint of things you need to change, from a UI perspective to get yourself into .NET Core.
Yeah.
Wish I could find the page for that. Rich, did you find a page for that?
I'm actually looking for that now.
So I feel like one thing that we don't talk about enough, or haven't so far, is Xamarin. And every time Miguel de Icaza or James I'm going to get his last name right. Is it Montemagno, or am I getting that wrong?
I always say it
now
wrong.
I feel terrible because he's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
They get on screen and just blow me away with what they do. Yeah, James Montemagno, right? Thank you. I blanked on it.
Thought you had it wrong,
for some reason.
I
stopped and said I must have it wrong. They get on screen and blow me away with new features like, and the thing is, I'm not a day-to-day Xamarin developer, but I say, boy, it must be nice to be a Xamarin developer, because they can now hot reload.
Some of those features were neat.
They can hot reload the emulator, the device. They do metrics up to App Center.
Yep.
I mean, I just go, oh, and then so like App Center, which I don't. Again, another thing we don't really talk about a whole lot, but the whole idea of saying, it started off big in the mobile world, of saying you want analytics for what's going on people's devices. Right. Is it fast? Is it slow? Is it crashing? And now coming to Windows desktop apps. So if you and also, and what I thought was interesting was that one of the use cases they really talked about was that this would be great for your internal apps. That internal corporate app, a lot of those WinForms and WPF apps still exist inside corporations all over the place, and the code works. So if now you've got App Center for that, and that solves a key problem for some of these older apps where there was literally no logging or analytics done.
So you're saying I could take or maybe you're not sure about this, but I can take an existing WinForms app and configure it?
So that I didn't quite get.
That seems like,
I don't know if it's .NET Core only, but it might not be.
Right. But
for the App Center?
For App Center desktop support, I'm not sure it has to be .NET Core. I'll admit, it was me watching, and I didn't stop to ask that question. I didn't in my head.
So then I'm wondering, when I hear about that kind of like logging and stuff like that, I think of, in my web apps, we use Azure,
like App Insights.
Right? Mm-hmm. And I kind of feel like it's similar to that, right? You're gonna, and I don't know if you can push stuff through from App Center into App Insight, and maybe there's a way to have them sort of work together. But you do want that you do want insights on what your app is doing, even if it's deployed in a distributed way. And so that's really cool.
I think anything we can do to standardize that work, because it's a cross-cutting concern that just gets left off the table all the time, even today, even in apps that you start today. But it certainly was true of apps that were built in the last 10 to 15 years.
Yeah. I'd like to, you mentioned Xamarin, by the way. I'd like to, maybe we could do a show like two guys that don't know Xamarin. Yeah. And let's see what we can come up with, because I did some Xamarin a while ago.
Maybe somebody smart that does know Xamarin here
but
to
it would
show
be
us.
interesting to see what happens. Let's just try to do it and see how successful we could
Make
be.
it 3 guys.
Yeah.
3 guys that don't know. I did some Xamarin a while ago.
Yeah, same.
And I liked it. Now, I think this story's gotten better, because when I was doing it, anytime you're doing anything with, that you're going to run on an Apple, I found it to be a pain in the neck, quite frankly. But I think that things have gotten way more advanced since I did it, and I remember hearing about new features. So that'd be kind of neat,
That team seems so determined to bring cross-platform mobile development, not just to .NET, but to make it the best experience possible, that you would just abandon the native languages and frameworks and platforms, because you just said this experience is so much better. That just seems to be their focus and determination.
Right.
And it's not just the mobile aspect of it, because if you look at the projects you can do from the Xamarin side of things, there's other form factors, things in the iOS space, things in the Android space, not just mobile type devices, which is pretty cool. So, but it's all getting around that idea of, if you're having that capability of running it once, doing a little tweaking and making it run wherever it needs to.
Yeah. So another technology that I think brand new to .NET developers, but clearly a bet being taken here because they led the keynote with it, was gRPC.
Right.
And so the first question is, like, what is gRPC, and does it stand for anything? And I believe that officially it's become one of the acronyms that supposedly says it doesn't stand for anything, but it is as it says right on their website, a high performance open source universal RPC framework. What a mouthful.
Yeah. But the point is, it's not a Microsoft thing. gRPC is just a standard.
Right. It is an open source standard.
Right.
That consists mainly of 2 parts. One is the proto buffers, which is and then also the transport is a streaming protocol transport, still to be used on the web.
I gotta stop you.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
It's like, what's a proto buffer, right?
Well, yeah, you're talking about proto buffers, right? Mm-hmm. And I kind of feel the same way I felt a little bit when I was watching the keynote, like jumping right into gRPC. Right. Hey, we've got gRPC before, and I'm like,
but what does it do?
What is that for?
Right,
like,
exactly. So what does it do? Why do you want this?
I don't even know. What do I need it for?
It's as we've moved to the web.
Yeah.
I think we've slowly abandoned some older technologies to, like, one of the things you always have to do is you got to make a call somewhere.
Yep.
Everything's not on your machine. I don't care if you're a web server or if you're the web client or something. And so we've tried things like SOAP, or we've tried things like the older ASMX pages.
Oh yeah.
Remember those? And we had actually pretty good, I think the programming model for that, especially if you were a .NET developer, was pretty nice. You would basically just point Visual Studio at a definition, and it would generate a client for you.
Yeah, remember that?
Yeah, and it even felt like
you got those proxies.
You got proxies.
Yeah,
and
that was cool, right?
It tried to make it feel like I'm just making a method call.
Right.
Now, granted, we all knew that it was going across the wire, and you could get exceptions back that had nothing to do with the actual work you were trying to do. And everything. Is it unfair to say that we all kind of just went web APIs?
Oh, yeah.
I think that's pretty fair.
Yeah, it's very fair. Matter of fact, we ditched WCF like an old girlfriend.
And SOAP and we're like, and any other way of doing things, even TCP/IP calls, even TCP and
because
UDP.
WCF had all those other features, like it did those other things, and everybody said, we don't need that.
Right. And
JSON, let's use JSON instead.
Or even just when you used to when we didn't have anything, you just might agree with your network engineers to open a TCP port somewhere.
Right.
But the problem is you got to this bad place where nobody wanted to open any more holes in the firewall. And hey, port 80's open. So what if we did stuff over port 80 all the time?
Right.
And that's why things like web services and stuff took off. And really the invention of HTTP APIs was man, the web's working pretty well. What if I did a get and instead of getting back a web page, I just got back the data that I wanted?
I wonder if it has anything to do with, again, I'm speaking without thinking here, but like it used to be that not everything was HTTPS, right?
Well, that's true.
And I wonder so WCF was more secure. I was, right?
When they got to like WCF star, there was ways to secure it. Sure.
I thought it was more secure as like a transport layer or something like that. But
you could secure it all with certificate authentication.
Yeah, but I thought if you could use
other
different transports for WCF and say I'm not going out on like
you could.
Yeah.
It could be TCP/IP. It could be
right. There's other ways.
But it could even be, if I remember correctly, there was a transport that wouldn't even leave the network, right? I don't remember if it was.
Yeah, there was one.
It was named pipes, but there was, because that wouldn't have been it.
They had all those things, though, right?
Yeah.
And we kind of threw that away. And I wonder if part of that was like, well, now you just do everything HTTPS, and
it was easy to integrate because everybody had 80 and 443 open anyway.
Right.
You get to eliminate the network guys from making deals.
Yeah.
You know what I think it was? I think it was the software guys revolting, saying, man, I'm really tired of making all these firewall requests. What if we just did everything over the web? Because that's open already.
Well, I'll tell you, when I did WCF, we were just doing it over the web anyway.
Yeah.
So it was like, well, I'm doing it over the web.
Right.
Let's just do it easier. And it seemed easier anyway. So we.
I remember way back in the day when the guys at Stack Overflow were using ASP.NET MVC. There was no such thing as ASP.NET Web API yet. And they said, you know what we're doing with ASP.NET MVC? We're not returning a web page. We're returning some XML.
Oh, yeah, we did that. Yeah, I don't know if I learned
just to get some data
That
around.
was the original web API. Was like, just return, and then I think
But you did it on your own. You just did it on your own.
It was an action result that just had data.
Yeah.
And it worked great. Yeah. So, I think in some of my early talks, I did that,
So HTTP APIs, like, why would you want anything else? Right? Why would you want anything else? So, what is gRPC? Yeah. Imagine it as being another way to build services that you call, but remote procedure call style.
Right.
What does that mean, remote procedure?
What it means is that technically, when you call a web API, you make a GET or a POST or a PUT or a delete request. And if you really want to adhere to REST, that you take those verbs and you constrain yourself to what they do.
Yeah.
Some people don't build HTTP. This is why you often hear me say the term web APIs, and I don't say REST APIs.
Yeah.
Because some people say, I don't really care about the REST angle.
Right.
I just want to hit a URL, and they treat it very remote procedure call.
But they still call it REST.
They do.
And it's not.
But it's still remote procedure call style. In fact, the endpoint might be get patient data.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
Which that's not REST anymore.
So you're saying what it should be is it should be called patient data, and I'm doing a get.
I'm doing a get.
Or I'm doing a post.
But whatever.
Right.
Who cares?
But RPC style.
The point is it's RPC style web APIs. So.
But I already do that.
So you might already do it.
Right.
And I'm not here to criticize you. Like I said, it's a style. gRPC is basically saying, okay, let's go back and let's do the remote procedure call style with client generated, with proxies that are generated for you to call as a client, just like we did back in WCF and SOAP days.
Yeah.
But what we'll do, here's where we think we get some advantages. For one thing, the protobuf format is a compressed binary payload compared to JSON, which is serialized back and forth. Performance heads might say, well, that's awesome. I'm just saying one thing. I think it's a very perfectly valid counter argument to say, really, is that where I'm losing performance?
Right.
But
if you want to, you could always send it out as JSON as well.
You could.
Right.
Yeah,
you
not
could.
Saying, you're right. So, but go where you're going.
So that's part of it. Another part of it is that many web APIs are still carried over HTTP as it was when it was invented, and we now have things like HTTP 2, which are supposed to be, again, compressed. Or what else can you do with HTTP 2? You can the old practice of bundling is actually discouraged in HTTP 2 because in HTTP 2 it's actually more efficient to just open a bunch of connections and stream the small files across. Where in original HTTP you run into the browser connection limit.
Right. So
a lot of us developers still think that way, right?
Yeah.
What else? Okay.
So
instead of relying on HTTP's resources and verbs, what if we could get away from that and define strongly typed messages that very clearly say what I'm going to send back and forth to you? Now, there are standards that have developed for HTTP, such as Swagger, also known as OpenAPI, that create contracts, but there is nothing that requires you.
Yeah.
This is basically saying gRPC says you must have a contract. The web says, do it if you want. And look, for survival's sake, I think a lot of us have.
Yeah.
Because the wild, wild west of like, well, call my API and find out what it returns. That doesn't work.
Right. And hopefully it won't break it on you, right?
So you get that contract like you had with WCF.
Sounds a little like WSDL.
Yeah,
kind of,
right. Those interface.
I don't want to, and I want to be careful not to make it sound like I'm saying it's an exact parallel, because that would be totally unfair to gRPC.
Right.
No, but when you see it get implemented in a solution, it has that feel to it.
Yeah.
Back to what you did.
And the only other thing that you might consider is that there is more than one way to communicate over HTTP. The common thing we always think about is request response. It's how your browser works.
Mm-hmm. Right.
It's how web APIs work. But for a very long time, we have had other methods. We've had streaming, and we've had chunked transfer encoding.
Yeah.
To send like a big file, you're not going to send that in HTTP response. You might do a chunk transfer encoding, or you might stream that down. And this is like a black art to a lot of developers, including me, frankly. I'd have to go look all that stuff up again. I can't just implement it today. Well, so gRPC streams the result.
Streams the result.
Which
by default, you're saying. Like,
it is what it does. It's not request response. Now, I don't want to try and say like, I don't want you to compare that to a WebSocket, because that's not fair.
Right.
But what you could basically do with a gRPC service is I could be a client that opens a stream, and I just open it, and now you're just pushing data down. So it's not the HTTP API model of, let me call you. Okay, let me call you. Okay, let me call you. Now, granted, we have technologies like SignalR that do the other side.
Yeah.
Right.
And gRPC could. I don't think gRPC is intending to be a SignalR. That's not what it's about. But I mean, there is bidirectional streaming in it.
Yeah, but SignalR isn't it more like I don't know how to explain it, but like SignalR, sure, it's that open thing, but it's more like I'm getting calls like every minute or something like that. I think of streaming is more just like the data's just
it could be
coming, right?
It could be.
I mean, it seems like there are a little bit of analogies around the SignalR side.
There's some overlap.
Yeah.
I mean, you think about it, if I've implemented something in gRPC, I've got the method that I'm calling here that makes that call out to wherever it exists on the server. Same thing happens when you do SignalR, right? You're basically saying, go find this other service, or all of the listeners who are waiting to go there and call this method on those components.
Right, like you could, gosh, I hope I'm not using this term wrong, but you could multicast with SignalR.
Yeah.
As the server, I could just say, hey, just tell everybody that this happened.
And not so, I don't think.
Yeah, that's not what you're doing in gRPC.
That's not what you would not be doing that with gRPC.
gRPC, right.
Yeah.
That's a big difference.
And the other thing that SignalR can do is, as the client, I can just at any time I feel like it, I can just yell out to the SignalR server hub.
Right.
And if it has some code to do something, it can act on it, which is why it's used. The canonical example is always chat, but it could be like a ticker. Just here's some data. It's coming. When I have data, I will tell you.
Like, wouldn't it be cool if we had a website, and as we're about to go live, if anyone happens to be on a website, we pop them at, we say boom, and that's, I think
you could use SignalR for that, right?
It's like, hey, we're going live, but
some people. I think there are people out there who still miss strongly typed contracts, and you don't, no matter what, no matter how much you swagger things up and OpenAPI things up, in the end, you're probably delivering JSON. I know technically you don't have to, but you probably are. And in the end, a client can interpret that poorly, because nothing in the world can make that. That's why I think let's just pick a provider. Let's say you want to use the Twitter API. Well, that's why they provide libraries, because they want to at least keep you from saying, okay, I'm going to roll it all myself. And when the JSON comes back, they want to help. They want people to succeed. And Microsoft does the same thing with their libraries for like the Azure SD. Sure, can you communicate with Azure over REST? Yep. Or you can use the .NET SDKs or the Python SDKs or the whatever SDKs so that you don't have to try and get that all right.
Yep.
So what's interesting is I wonder if the team felt like if we don't provide gRPC support, it won't happen because developers probably just aren't going to use it, and then we'll kind of be in this bad situation where if the rest of the world starts adopting gRPC, .NET developers are like, oh, I can't come along for the ride. Whereas SOAP felt more like Microsoft was in a leadership position when SOAP arrived. Folks like IBM and Microsoft and Java were saying, hey, everybody, we came up with something to interoperate. And then like some of the other guys said, yeah, we tried it for a while. Forget it. We're just going to send some XML over the wire over a GET request and call it a day.
I hadn't thought of this. So with gRPC, are we saying that it's not just .NET to .NET applications?
Oh, definitely not.
No.
Right, and that's something I hadn't considered before.
That's actually probably the number one reason is that. So you have a service definition and you have many different libraries that are already out there across platforms. And I shouldn't just say libraries for the client, server implementations as well.
Right.
So I want to do this in Java, do it in Java. I want to do it in Python, do it in Python. And then now I, as the .NET developer, get to interop.
And you could distribute those libraries like with a NuGet or something like that. And you say, download our... It's a little bit like saying it's funny how maybe we're going back, things go back and forth, but it's like download our client API, but it's not really an API. It's just the definition of the gRPC contracts and stuff like that.
Right.
So it's smaller than, because you're still using the built-in.
I mean, like you said, if you, I don't know if we wanted, we could set it for another time, right?
Right.
But when you open a Visual Studio project, you say file new project gRPC server. You get a simple server with a simple hello message. It's nothing powerful, but they lay it all out in front of you that you can at least start to infer, oh, I'm probably going to have to change that contract in that special file format called .proto. I don't know what it is. I don't know if you want to look at it.
Let's do it. Yeah. We got time?
All right.
We should do some code. Let's do some like hands-on stuff.
Yeah, we've just been talking, right?
Yeah.
So when
I'm gonna.
So am I bringing you up here?
Oh, an updated license. That's all right.
Oh.
You can just do that check and it's all over.
Which?
That check right there. Check for an updated license.
Yeah.
It'll work.
It should.
It's live. We're live. It'll work right now. I promise you. See, look at that. We have updated your license successfully.
All right. So I'm going to do create new project.
Yep.
Good old Visual Studio 2019. I assume I got to search for it here. I don't know.
It's probably easier to type gRPC, and there it is.
There it is, yeah.
So
saying, right?
.NET Core, this is a gRPC service.
I'm going to hit next while you're doing that. We're going to call it gRPC Service 1.
Well, of course.
Because,
it's the first one.
Yeah, ever. So let's just create it.
Yeah.
So this is the service,
right?
But we would need a client to go with it, right? What is this?
Yeah, but I think even we'll be able to see some stuff.
By the way, so this box here says enable Docker support. Now, one of the things I wrote down in my takeaways from the keynote was it made it sound like maybe they were just talking about it this way, that this was a container. This is something to go from containers to containers. This has really nothing to do with containers, right?
It technically doesn't have anything to do with containers, but I think what they were trying to show was look how quickly we went from gRPC project into a container, and so we're getting all the benefits of containerization. But yes, you're very right to point out that maybe that line was blurred for you as a viewer.
Yep.
What does one have to do with the other? I mean, you could run it on, heck, you could run it on your laptop.
Yeah. All right.
Put it behind the firewall. Let's go, right?
So what do I got in here? I got protos.
Right. So
is that what I should be looking for?
Yeah, let's start by looking at the proto file. You kept using that
word proto.
I did.
I did. What the heck's a proto? Right, I forgot.
So this is the contract format. Yeah. Okay, right. and you might be able to infer just by looking at it.
Yeah. Let me.
It doesn't mean we could add to it.
Let me see. You've looked at this before, right? And I don't think I have. So, okay. So I got a namespace. I've got a package greet, and I guess in greet I have this greeter, which sends the greet. It tells me it's going to send a greeting and it's going to return this hello reply. if I give it a request, is what it looks like. Given this hello request, which is string name equals 1, which is kind of an interesting string. What? That's
well,
weird.
for one thing, notice that you're requesting and responding to messages.
This is
a message. The request is coming in as a message, and you are responding with a message.
Yeah, it's not a strongly typed. Well, maybe it is.
Hello request is the type, sort of.
It's kind of vague,
we like to use the term strongly typed. It's something that means a lot. It's something that means a lot to .NET developers, but it's a strong service definition.
Yeah,
that is what you're going to get.
Right, and so we've got a proto, which I guess is just the name that like this is gRPC, right? Like this isn't Microsoft's implementation. Like that's just gRPC. So if we don't like the names, we can't blame it. Like it exists already. So this is the. Let me just see some. So this is the thing I would share, if I'm not mistaken. This is what I would share to people that want to use this service over here.
Yeah,
the greeter service. Right?
From a proto file, a client can be generated. So the people who build libraries for anything, Java, Ruby, Python, should as a standard be able to take a proto file and generate a client that will talk to it.
So
now we're writing a service.
Yeah, we're the service.
So
we're
now
the server side, right?
This is being implemented. Now there was a little hint in the proto file because I think the proto file needed to know in C# the namespace is gRPC service 1, and that's just because of the nature of C#. Everything's in a namespace, but that's not necessarily like not every language needs that,
right?
But here it is. So now the service is smart enough to say, okay. Well, the reason why that's important is because if you were generating a C# client, you need to match that. You need to make sure your namespace and everything match up. Otherwise, how can you possibly send a hello message, a hello reply in that namespace? That's just the C# thing. That's why they put it in there. Yeah. But here it's being implemented. Okay, so what do we have is they're saying, why don't you, you're going to want a logger. And granted, you could delete that.
You don't need a logger.
You could delete it.
But it's sort of a...
But they're saying, why don't you're probably going to want a logger, so let's inject one.
Yep.
And then there's only one method to implement back in that proto file. Say hello.
Takes the request. Right. And returns the reply.
Right. Now, C# server developers also get that server call context, which probably, this might be totally unfair, but it probably feels a lot like getting the HTTP context.
Yeah, that's what
Maybe there's some details about it that you should know.
Right. But they're not using it in this demo.
Yeah, it's just not. So but you could examine it another time.
It's built in, right? And you get it's a task, so it seems to be asynchronous, but I don't see the words async on here.
It doesn't need to be, because what you're doing, you're buying into async by basically returning a task of hello reply.
Yep.
What that enables you are now enabled to say, see, this particular implementation wasn't async.
Right.
But the fact that the override itself could be async means that you're just a short hop away from inserting the async keyword and then going and making an IO bound call.
Right.
Where you really do need the await.
Yeah, where you need it.
But since you don't need it, you don't use it.
Yeah.
And task from result is our synchronous way to say, hey, I know I'm playing in async coding, but I'm synchronous. So here you go. Here's a task from the actual work.
Right. And then other than that,
I apologize to Stephen Cleary if I didn't.
Well, you'll ask him at...
I'll ask him at Tech Bash.
Tech Bash.
If
Stephen
I didn't,
Cleary will be at Tech
Bash. If I didn't explain that very well.
Excited that he's coming, because that guy knows his stuff. So this is so simple, right? My gut says I want to create a client.
Right. So
call this.
So it turns out, now you would never you wouldn't do this in the same project, but maybe just to keep it simple here. Remember how you used to generate client proxies for WCF? It's been a while, but do you remember how you did it?
You used to go in and, like, if this was there, I would right click and say add a reference.
Go take a look.
Well, but I'm in this class here, right?
Well, go to references.
Yeah.
Right? I know you're in this project. I don't know if you want to create a whole nother one, though. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, right click on dependencies.
Right click. And add a reference, right? Or add connected service.
I thought it would be add service reference, but I don't see it.
Well, I don't see it. Maybe I'm not at the right spot. I went up a higher level.
So there is an add there in the middle. It's funny.
Service reference.
There's
down
add
here.
Service reference. Yep.
So you're telling that's what it used to be called. I mean,
remember that? Yeah. We'll
yeah, but that was for WCF.
Well, look at this.
So it says Open API.
There's a couple interesting service references here that people may not be used to seeing in the tooling. One of them is gRPC, what we're talking about now.
Yeah, right here.
And it even detects. Well, we'll get back to Open API.
Yeah, but it knows that I have one in my own project.
It's like, well, I know you wouldn't do this.
No,
but what it's saying is, look, I see a greet.proto.
Yeah.
You want me to make a client?
Sure.
You should be able to click that.
I wonder if it would recognize it if it was a new project in the same, like if it would look across solution for that. But that's just a tooling thing. So I guess I want to view the generated code. I'm trying to figure out if it doesn't. I don't see like an add. Except
so
here.
So add, you might go out to.
It almost makes it seem like, well, see, it already is. It already has that thing, right? Like it knows the thing. I'm not adding the
right. But just for the heck of it, let's view the generated code just so you can see. The point here is to say that it is possible to take a proto file and generate C# code that, because it's generated, is very complicated. But the point of it is that we wouldn't care about this. We would just start calling the methods on it.
Right.
We would create one of those greeters, and then we would call the say hello method, and we wouldn't care about the rest of it.
Right.
But something else interesting in that tooling is we talked a little bit earlier about how, as much as technically speaking, nothing truly enforces contracts in a web API, but there is the Swagger/Open API standard, and we have tooling in Visual Studio that says, oh, you've got an Open API service reference for me, maybe sitting in a URL on somebody's site. We're going to have to build a little Open API based item and then go through this tooling, because that's built into the product now.
We just thought of another show.
Yeah, another show.
We keep coming up with other shows. So this is pretty cool. So, the thing is, I mean, I would like to create another project and call the thing, because you kind of want to see what does the code look like. Obviously, I guess what it's going to look like is it's going to look like new greeter, right? And somewhere in the thing, I'm going to say greeter G equals new greeter, right? Or whatever. And I'm going to say greeter dot.
And you want to see if you can call it.
Yeah, well,
I mean, if you made like a console app.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering. Is it a console app?
It could be. Sorry. Do you really want to make does it need to be a GUI?
No,
okay.
No, definitely. I mean, I guess it has to be a console because you have to run it. All right, so do add new project. I'm going to say, so it's just a .NET Core console app?
.NET Core console app.
Okay, and I'm going to call it.
And this is live.
Client, because, it makes a little more sense that way, right? I'll even call it gRPC. I feel like I should call it client 1 because the other one was called service 1, right? All right, so now I got that. So now in here, I'm going to try that same thing, right? I'm going to do add service reference. Doesn't have it. Okay. But let's see what happens. I assume I can go to the file, and it happens to be right here. It would be a URL or something like that, but I can go right up to.
Or somebody could email you a file.
Sure. Or maybe it's
or
again,
it's publicly posted.
There's so many ways you can do
GitHub gist.
I believe it's this. I'm gonna hit that thing. I'm just I've seen this for 5 minutes, right? There it is. Select the type of client. Oh, what are my options there? Client. I can create a new server from it. Client and server. I think I want a client. And what's it gonna add? So we're up in here now.
It looks like it had to go to NuGet for some stuff, which makes sense. It probably needs all the.
So all
gRPC
it has is the same
support.
proto file. Mm-hmm. It's the same file. Got some dependencies got added. It looks like gRPC stuff because it wasn't a gRPC app, right? It was just a console app.
But you didn't have to figure out what NuGet packages.
No, I didn't have to, right? And then I go to program. Now my guess is that in here I could say something like. Greeter. I'm probably going to add a reference or something like that, but let's see what it says. Using gRPC service 1. Okay, greeter G, I'm being really creative here, equals new greeter. Okay. Is it like that? Doesn't like that.
I suspect that where we're going to get hung up here is teaching it where to find the service.
Right.
Do I need to generate
It's probably like localhost something or other.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I was figuring it wasn't somewhere in here. Well, maybe is there a? I didn't see anything like.
And it also makes you wonder if maybe it's has a static generator instead
well,
of being...
yeah, it could be something like that.
Yeah.
Let's just see. Yep, cannot create an instance. So let's just do something like it's probably greeter dot.
What's your service reference name? Isn't that what it's like? Usually service reference dot your.
Well, I don't see like a service reference in here. You know what I mean? Like, I know it's hard for you to see the screen.
That's why I look back over here.
So like over here, I've got, I don't have a service reference in here.
You're saying where did the code go?
Or do I need to generate the code first and save it in here? Right? Like maybe it has this, but it doesn't have. I mean, it knew that what a gRPC service was, even though I didn't add a reference to this thing, right?
Right, but it figured that out because the proto file said that the namespace was gRPC service.
Yeah, but so if I do greeter again, greeter client, maybe I need. Oh, maybe this is what I need. Client equals new. I was doing greeter.
Oh, look at that. So the namespace and not the.
Let's see. Wait. Okay. So now I have to give it a channel base or a call invoker. Creates a new client for greeter that uses a custom call invoker, and I guess I need one of those. New.
So what you need to pass is a gRPC channel. And the problem
I was talking about that.
is we don't have one. So on the line before that, if you say that you want to create, let's see if you have the gRPC channel and in that gRPC.
Oh, the whole
gRPC. The C in channel is also capitalized, but the G is capitalized and the C is capitalized.
The G is capitalized.
Yeah, so I messed you up there.
That's okay.
Now, before it takes that, is there a using that it's looking for?
Well, let's see what it does. Okay, that's good news, right?
Yeah, I recognize it. Okay, so you want a channel, and you use a static. This is also a static method. gRPC channel dot.
Now, did you remember this, or did you just look this up while I was typing?
Oh yeah, the documentation's right here.
Right. For address, right?
And the reason why we want I'm glad you picked that up. The reason we want it is because you're just about to run the service as a local host, but we don't know what it's running as.
Right, I have to run it now and find out, right? Yeah. So I can just run this thing, right?
Yeah, I guess we don't need to debug it. It could just be running.
Right.
So
what am I forgetting? This is what I'm like acting like. Here we go. Isn't there? Oh, I always forget where that run without.
The start without is in the debug menu, or it's Control F5.
Control F5.
Yeah.
Good one. Yeah.
Oh gosh, and then the SSL stuff, which is good. I'm glad that in .NET Core, from the jump, they're like, hey, you should just be developing an HTTPS.
Giving us our 5001 is, I guess, what we want to know.
So that service is listening, and you want to put in HTTPS localhost 5001.
Yeah. So,
this is gonna work.
Of course, it's gonna work. Where are we?
There you go.
You were on it.
Is it this one? Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna say HTTPS.
Yep.
Oh, I got caps lock on. Sorry. HTTPS.
You wanted it to be super secure.
Localhost.
Colon, so that you can say that it's 5001.
5001, right?
Yep. And now that next line should be
that
valid.
into here.
Yeah.
Put channel into here. Okay. That goes away.
All right. So you got a client.
Say hello.
Right.
Or say hello async, by the way. it created that. I mean, I don't know if you can see that. Do I have Zoom on? I don't have Zoom.
No, I see that it's...
Yeah, I don't know if you can see that on the screen.
Yeah,
but
let's just use the async one.
Oh, well, this isn't an async method. Let's just start.
It will be in a second. Okay, go ahead.
Let's just start with the basics. Right. Come on, say hello. And the greeting was, there's options. Oh, there's a couple of things here, but
okay, so
we need a request,
right? And it's in. I want to try and say this somewhat correctly. The contract is defined. It's well defined.
Yep.
So that means for a C# people, a strong type.
Yes.
And we had a type generated for us.
So it's probably a greeter request or something like that. What was it called?
If you remember, go take a look at the proto file.
Yeah. Good.
Because it's going to reuse that name.
Hello request.
Yep.
That's what we want. Yep.
So we get a strongly typed hello request generated for us when you're back in the CS. Yep. And this we can new up, I believe.
I would hope so, because it's just a simple type, right?
Yep. And you could even use, that's fine.
Let's see what we got here. We got name.
Remember, there was a name.
You know, and I'll say, I'm Andy.
Yep.
You know?
Yep.
And now I can press the request into here.
Yep.
But there's another parameter which doesn't seem to be...
Do you need it though? If you go down to what's the other call option?
Big. But request, but this is null. So
right, but it has default parameters.
Yeah. So really,
we could just do
it's funny
this
how
one.
It comes in as the second one.
The one that actually has more parameters is the one we can use.
It's easier,
because it's got a bunch of defaults. So hopefully they're sane defaults. Maybe you really shouldn't use the defaults. We don't know if this is best practice code yet.
But we need this.
Yeah.
We need to get the response back for it. Right. Which is going to be a hello reply.
Right.
And then maybe what we should do is say...
Let's just see what it was.
Yeah, I don't know what's coming out in that thing. So let's say response. And it's strongly typed, so it has a message.
Yep. I think you've done it. I think you've written a gRPC client without having ever seen gRPC before.
Yeah.
And just a little bit of help from some documentation.
Okay, now that one's running. So now I'm going to set this to the startup, and I'm going to actually debug this, because why not?
Mm-hmm.
I keep losing my spot over here. Okay. And see if this works. So I should be able to run that now.
And don't forget, neither of us have built a gRPC client.
So you have not done this?
I haven't built a gRPC client, but I did look at the server code.
So, and you know, you had some, let's be fair here, you had a little knowledge because you gave me some tips along the way, but this was pretty discoverable, you know. Okay, so I got my channel, of course, my client. I'm going to request. I get my Oh, you know what I should have done is put a breakpoint in. Well, I didn't run the other.
Well, you're still sitting there, so we know that the debug. If you hit F10 one more time, the console's going to show the response.
Sure. But I wanted to see if
the response came back.
Yeah,
and
it's message back and it says hello Andy. I mean,
that all worked.
That's pretty cool. So, what I'm getting out of that, right? No, I didn't show it on the thing.
Okay. We saw it.
So, this sounds to me like, in layman's terms, in simplest point. First of all, it was easy. Okay, but I've got what in the .NET world we call strongly typed request and response for an API.
Yeah.
Now there's probably other goodness in there, but like just in a nutshell, like that's pretty cool.
Yeah. And while we say it's easy, part of the easiness of it is because we have the docs, we have, a couple of videos that we've looked at. There's a good bit of documentation and handholding to get you up and running, even in a simple example.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, docs.microsoft.com. A quick search for gRPC.
Can I bring your screen up on that?
Yeah.
My screen or his? Yeah.
You can bring mine up.
You know what? And a lot of times when we do demos on things, we or presenters do demos, and you think, well, the simple hello world one, what does that really show, right? But in this case, it's a request. I mean, it doesn't matter if it said Andy. You can imagine any number of things in here. I could be purchasing a car, and it might be the car. It's a message. So it doesn't. It's not such a stretch to imagine a real scenario here.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And it comes back. You come back with a strongly typed response. So there's a whole class. There's a whole class of like errors and deserialization problems that go away. Which, granted, I know that we .NET developers are probably using a library for anyway. Frankly, it's probably JSON.NET. Or I mean, that's probably what we're doing. Is
by the way, I guess we don't
serializing.
need JSON.NET anymore in .NET Core, or is that the next .NET Core 3 has JSON serialization built in?
There is a JSON.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of
serializer
interesting.
built in. Yeah.
Not that we don't like Newtonsoft, you know.
But what I find interesting is that, so this is cool, but then you can come out of this if you really like web APIs. There's a little nugget there that we got to look at on another show about, like, oh, what must it be like to get a generated open API client for me? It does require that you buy into Swagger / Open API,
right,
but a lot of people do.
It's pretty standard, right?
Yeah, it's pretty popular.
So this was easy, and I mean, I actually, thanks to you guys, I learned something, right? We learned how easy this is to do. So this is cool.
And you can do this exact.
I like this show.
You can do this exact tutorial yourself just by you Google intro to gRPC on .NET Core, and it's going to get you to docs.microsoft.com. And what is really great about this one is that you do the same file new project Andy did, and then yes, this code doesn't flat out. It tells you to do more than what you had to do. Like, it specifically tells you the package reference that you need for your
I let the
for your
tooling
client
help
stuff,
me with
but the
that.
tooling did this for you, which is pretty cool. And then your service project, we got it quote unquote for free.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is that they do the same exact demo, which is kind of nice.
What do you mean? Oh,
that was the exact code you needed to write.
Oh yeah.
But
it was more fun than what we did.
Yeah, it was kind of fun to discover it. But now you get to go back and read this and understand what did we get for free? Well, we got that endpoint generated for us.
Yeah.
So now you go look in the startup file and say, oh, I see. There was of the service, right?
Yeah.
You say, I see. Yeah, I had an endpoint.
Yeah, we didn't look at that.
No, we didn't do anything. We just went for it.
We just went for it. But if we came in here.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, and that's interesting that what's not in this sample but is over on Andy's screen is they even make the endpoint the endpoint definition a little bit more resilient. If somebody just comes in here and doesn't use gRPC, then they return a simple response that says, hold on, maybe you should be using gRPC. That could be like a web page. In fact, isn't that common? I don't know if you've done this before with any of your APIs.
Yeah.
That if a browser tries to hit your
put
API,
HTML in there,
you detect it and you say, hey,
Standard stuff,
welcome to this.
And then I'm guessing somewhere in here, this is that HTTP 2 you were talking about. So it uses HTTP 2 by default. Now that's another thing.
I think gRPC may always do that.
Right.
I'm pretty sure that's correct.
But
that's just because the web page told me so.
Yeah,
It's not because I knew it.
Yeah,
that's how we know anything.
One of these
it's because
files,
the gRPC site said that.
I was thinking one of these files would have had my port number in it.
Oh,
I don't know if it just automatically.
It's just in the project, isn't it?
In the project?
Startup CS.
What?
The localhost 5001 is an app settings thing, possibly.
Well, I was looking in app settings. I thought, see, I opened it. It's not in there.
Okay, well then head over to startup or program.
Program?
Yeah, you'll find it.
I thought I didn't see it.
At least I'm pretty sure you'll see it.
Try startup.
I thought we just looked at those. Oh, maybe it's in here. Yeah, see, I was looking in here and I didn't see it in here. So, unless
it might be sitting in project settings too. You know what I think it might be is that because you're in Visual Studio, that might be they might be declaring some environment and pulling it out of there. So you would go to debug.
I was looking at this real quick also. Sometimes there's some stuff stashed in here, but no,
not for this.
So,
or to top it all off, what we may have forgotten to do was look at the app settings.json derivatives that are hiding under there. So if you look at development,
no,
that wasn't it either.
I thought you were on it.
That could have been. So we were going to look at projects. We're going to try one more thing over in project settings. Or here's the other thing that's possible. Maybe when you fire up Kestrel and you don't specify anything, you get 5001.
Well, because it is. I was thinking that's a very default number. It didn't give us 8794,
which happens when you're using IIS Express. Is a number gets generated for you and it goes into that application host file and
I don't know where it would be.
In debug, I think,
debug.
because that's where environment. Yeah, so they're just saying it's
there's
development.
app URL.
There you go.
So
yeah, look at that.
So, but that's got to be somewhere in code. So is that in the project file? Like, where is that? We can edit these things now.
Yeah, you can edit it right there.
So it's not in here either. You know what I mean? Like, something put it in here. Unless this is a default of some sort, that if you don't specify it, it just gets that. That's something for another show to look at, right?
Try and figure that stuff out.
You know, this is, so, it's cool. It's cool, and we did a little demo in here. We didn't even have a demo plan. We did not have a demo plan. This was not, I think it works out pretty good. I like these unscripted kind of things. And honestly, I hope people that watch the show, if you like this kind of stuff, leave a comment. If you're watching it now, or if you're watching it later, leave a comment on YouTube. Hit the like button and subscribe. We always appreciate that.
Yeah.
But if you like these kind of unscripted
partially
demos,
like only kind of scripted. This was less scripted than usual.
Yeah, we had we didn't even have an idea, right?
No, I think that's good. I mean, and if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out, right?
Yeah. So where are we at now?
So gRPC. That's you're going to go to work tomorrow and you're going to say, everyone, we're not building any more web. In fact, let's start converting them all.
Well, what I am saying though, by the way, is start using .NET Core. And
yeah, that's true. No matter
like,
which way you go,
yes.
Right? No matter how you build your services.
We are, we've talked about this, that it's here, and it's time to start using it. I mean, I believe it's really time to start using it. We've talked about the whys many times, but this is the .NET framework now. There's kind of no reason not to use .NET Core.
No,
I mean there might be some, but like in most cases, they're
Yeah, and I think just to have the caveat that knowing, and we were talking about this before the show, that the long-term .NET Core 3 is great. It's out there. Go ahead and do it. And absolutely, the guidance is go build your applications against it, but realize there is a milestone coming up with 3.1 that that's where you need to shift.
And I have that up there too.
Okay.
So this schedule was it's been announced. This wasn't news last Monday, but this is important to know, is that get working on .NET Core 3. It's considered current, which means keep up with what's happening over the next few months as we get to .NET Core 3.1, and that will be declared LTS at some point, maybe November, maybe when it's released in November. I don't know, but when it is, you could ship and rely on that for several years. Several being, I don't know, 2, 3, I don't know. We'll see.
So how is that different than .NET Core 3?
So .NET Core,
which is live now.
It is live, but the key thing to note is that when 3.1 releases, that day and date, I suspect we will see a 90-day countdown on 3.0 end of life. Just like day and date, when 3.0 shipped, 2.2 got that 90-day, September 23rd was when 3.0 shipped, and 2.2's end of life date is December 23rd, exactly 3 months later. So current just means, current means we want you to keep with us.
So if you have a .NET 2.2 application, .NET Core 2.2, you're saying that it is no longer supported?
In December 23rd, yes.
Of this year.
That's right. But
so that's a short window.
That was known.
This thing.
Current. And now I will admit that a lot of developers don't know. And this is why I keep preaching this to everyone who listens.
How many times have we had a show where you keep talking about these like support these what do you call these?
The life cycle. Support life cycle.
Support, like you hone in on this stuff, and so I didn't know that there was a 2.2. I look like the idiot on the show. I'm always the one that says I didn't know that, but I think a lot of people don't know that.
Right, and actually, and the reason why I do try to preach it is this is so different from what we were used to in .NET Framework, where any .NET Framework release as a component of the OS was going to follow the life cycle of the OS, which typically has been 10 years.
Right.
And I say typically because I looked at the .NET Framework lifecycle the other day and see some changes afoot. That's another show, but it's nothing to worry about, honestly. .NET Framework 4.8 is going to ship with every OS for a very, very long time, and every time that happens, just extend that clock.
Right.
But I did bring up very quickly the .NET Core. There's actually several places to find this, but here on the .NET GitHub page, there is a table showing These are the current versions, okay? Yep. So .NET Core 2.1 was released in May of 2018, and it was released as an LTS. So by doing that, they have said, we will support you for at least 3 years from when we declared LTS.
So 2.1 is LTS, but 2.2
was not.
Was never LTS.
Nope. They even said it was current, right? They put the word current up there.
That's interesting.
And when you hear current, that means we expect you to follow along. You keep downloading SDK so that you're keeping up, so that you can move when we ship the next version.
Which kind of makes it feel like anything that's 2.2, what they're really saying is it's beta for.
Might have felt that way, right?
Something else.
Well, but it was supported. You could go to production. You could call, and you could do that for a while, because look when it released, September 10th. Is that right? Yes. September 10th, 2019. Why do I feel like that?
Yeah, that's a pretty short window.
That date doesn't. I don't feel like that date is right. .NET Core 2.2 has been around for a while. I'm looking. There's another chart that I kind of wish I would have actually brought up.
Well, I don't know. So the point is that 3.1, which you would assume from 3 to 3.1 is going to be an easy upgrade and stuff like that. So you start building with 3. .NET Core
2.2 was originally released December 4th of 2018. You were free to take it to production. All you were doing is you were making a deal saying, we're going to watch everything you do with .NET Core 3, and when it comes out, we are going to be ready to move. Right. So, I mean, that's almost a year. Right. So I hear what you're kind of saying, like you kind of felt like it was beta, but boy, that's an awfully long.
Well, I don't mean beta. It like it's beta.
No, I'm just trying to differentiate how it's not quite beta, but it is something where there are a lot of development teams that are following along. Like Node developers do that, Angular developers. You're not staying in place.
Right.
Well, you can, because doesn't Angular have an every other?
I don't know.
I want to say the even numbers are long term, and speaking of even numbers are long term and odd numbers are not, let's look at the future.
Switch back to average.
The future after .NET Core 3.1.
I love this.
Is .NET 5.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
We're skipping 4 because 4 has meaning. .NET Framework.
It's just too
4.
Confusing.
That would be confusing.
Right.
So .NET 5 comes out November 2020. The idea is to go to predictable release schedule every November. But look at how 2020 is also going to be current, and .NET 6 will be the next LTS. So if you take .NET 5, you're saying, let's keep up. We'll keep up. We want to keep up with this, and then when 6 comes, you could stick on it. It depends on if your team is the kind of team that literally needs to ship and walk away. And looks, we've actually had this conversation on the show where you question, like, how can you even live that way? Some people still, don't try to live that way, but maybe you are.
To walk away.
You need to ship and then walk away from it for a while.
We have applications that it works. Mm-hmm. I mean, listen, what our companies want us to do is ship working software and
go do something else.
Bugs and start doing something else.
Right.
So I completely understand that model. Actually.
So those you might, if you're in that place, you might want to consider LTS releases.
Yeah. Now, if you're in an application that you think, hey, we do, we've got the first release of the application, and we've got a team that's going to work on this application for the next couple of years. Like, there's applications that we make that are like for limited use, and there's applications that are like people's daily work where we're always adding features to it. And in those kind of things, it's not that big a deal to upgrade them because you're in there all the time.
The other nice thing is with a schedule like this that we see now, there's now planning that you could do, and I don't think we had that planning before.
We should put the URL of this in the show note. Like, can we, this is a good one. I mean, I guess you can see it right there, but Rich, I wonder if we could type that in as a, I can do it, I guess, right here. Oh, I don't have the URL. That's your URL. Do you have the mixer up where you can throw it in the comments or something like that too, in case
for this link?
Yeah,
I'll
I pulled it. There's many places to pull it, but I pulled it from the blog post about the .NET schedule.
Yeah.
I think the key here is that what we have now that we didn't even have just a little while ago is the definition of current and LTS has been pretty well known for .NET Core if you were plugged in and paying attention for a while. Right. But what we didn't have was the long-term schedule.
Mm-hmm.
And now what we have, when you look at those bullet points from that slide, is you can even map it out in your head. Every November, new .NET, the even ones are LTS. for planning purposes.
Well, it does make it, you could follow along with that.
If you say to yourself, hey, our team's starting on a project, I expect it to take 8 months.
Right.
And then after that, I want to be LTS for a while. You now can decide. Do you want do you want to build on 3.1 or tell your team, no, plan for .NET 6?
Right. It's interesting.
Yeah.
A lot going on.
A lot to think about. And we didn't used to think about it before because you could ship on .NET Framework and you're like, yeah, what? .NET Framework's that's supported, right? Forever. And essentially, it was.
Yeah.
So it's a little, that's different. And I will tell you, it's caused a little heartburn for some people who, as .NET developers, it was not a concern.
Right. It's a new concept.
Yeah. The concern of upgrading .NET Framework wasn't even your concern as a developer. It was IT's concern. Go update the servers, patch the servers.
And we've been down this. We've had this conversation before too, because things really get interesting now. Because it's like, if with .NET Core, forget about all this other stuff, and that you have LTS and not LTS versions. If I ship my app and I deploy it out to a server, let's say it's an ASP.NET Core app, right? It's not getting updated because the .NET is in there.
Right. It could be.
It could be in there, right?
Yeah. It is possible for you to install .NET Core on servers. You could do that.
Yeah.
You could also say, you know what? We don't want to do that anymore. We're going to ship it with the release.
Yeah, because maybe each app has different. Well, I guess there's lots.
You
of
could
ways
do
to
that,
do it, right? And so, but if you do that, you're
Who's
not
on
getting.
the hook?
Yeah, you're on the hook, right? And this is another mind shift.
What about containers?
Yeah.
Now who's on the hook?
You're definitely on the hook.
Right? If I build a container for .NET Core, let's go to an LTS version for .NET Core 3.1.1, and then next week it is announced, and I know we're in the future here. Next week it were to be announced that you should really move to 3.1.2 because there was a elevation of privilege vulnerability that's remedied in 3.1.2. You got to gank that container.
Yeah.
And who does that? Is that DevOps?
Who's got timelines built in for those things? And when you're working at, we're in agile teams. What do you mean? Is it DevOps?
Is it a DevOps decision?
We don't have, but it depends on your structure of your company. Like,
sure, exactly.
Our developers are the DevOps team.
So is it a developer?
But that means they got to be tuned into knowing that there's an update, right? That means they have to have time in a sprint to say. I mean, it's generally not that hard, hopefully, to just change a version and then redeploy. But what does that mean for your testing scenario? Does that mean everything has to go back through QA testing and UAT testing because you're deploying your app again? And I guess companies have to figure out sort of what their tolerance is on that. If it's just a .NET framework upgrade, like a slight version,
right?
Do I retest my application? In theory, companies have policies that say we don't deploy new things into production without them going through. Now, if unit tests, of course, we run automatically.
Think about what's happening today on .NET Framework. Patch Tuesday comes along, fixes .NET Framework, and everyone is asleep.
Right, so if you make that correlation, which is what it is, then you say, well, just redeploy the thing.
The developers don't know, the QA doesn't know, no one knows.
There's a difference, because in this case, the difference is from an audit perspective.
Sure.
Someone pushed that button and said deploy.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, somebody said reboot the machine with the patch. I mean, someone was in that process.
Yeah.
Just for framework, somebody.
Framework stuff, I mean, and in the example that you had there, where the underlying image is compromised, it's akin to a security update coming through on the Windows side. You'd want that to automatically go through.
Right. I think it's just that when you really follow this through to the end, and you get that eye-opening moment, you say, "Wow." I didn't think about that, right? It doesn't mean that it's bad. It just means that we have to think about it.
I think what it really means is we're going to have a lot of .NET Core applications sitting around on servers that aren't updated. Until we can build up a culture, and get used to that. When I say we, I mean the big we, developers.
Right.
You mean like the servers that aren't getting updated?
Well, no, I mean we're pretty strict about server.
No, it's good that it is good that you are, but I think a lot of people struggle with that. They opt out. They opt out of. I'm going to pick on Patch Tuesday, but they opt out of Patch Tuesday.
Well, we opt out of Patch Tuesday in some ways. We do it ourselves, and we have there's processes, but we stay very current.
Yep.
And there's a lot of ways to do that. This is another thing that now, what does it mean to own an application, right? And to support, we've got 10 applications in our portfolio. We've got 100 applications in our portfolio. Or maybe there is something to say that the people that were doing the patches on our servers, is there a way that they can be sort of brought into the DevOps thing where they can somehow, I don't know though, then they'd have to go into the code, change it and recompile it. It's not like a simple way to
change the Docker files.
Like a free, well, let's say it's not Docker. I don't use Docker, but let's just say it's a .NET app, a regular web app service running in Azure, right? We got to redeploy it with a new version of the .NET Core. Is there an easier way to do that? Meaning that someone could just go to some, like maybe.
I'll tell you what I have thought about. Although I don't know that this exists, I've thought about saying, what if I'm building, let's say we're using Azure DevOps. It could be any continuous interview, who cares?
Right.
But you're using Azure DevOps and you have your main deploy to production pipeline, but then you've got another one. And it always pulls the latest SDK. It pulls the latest no matter what. And so what happens is when this announcement happens, by the time the announcement's happened, it's already been built. Now, you don't want to go to production with a Docker file that says latest, but you could test it and you could even run it through your automated test. And in fact, you could do that every day.
Right.
And so then when the announcement comes across, you go, oh, there was an announcement. How did our Azure DevOps go last night? Did it use the new image?
Yeah,
it did. And all the tests passed.
Yeah.
Well, then let's go change the Docker file and ship. I know I made that all kind of cavalier.
The Docker file example, you keep going back to that.
Well, okay,
but
let's go change the DevOps pipeline that downloads that SDK. Let's bump it, because that's part of the pipeline where you declare the SDK that you want used. So instead of latest in this kind of like this, like a canary pipeline maybe, and then your actual production pipeline, you got to go change it.
Right.
But you have this canary pipeline that's like always ready and it's always going.
Well, take that a little differently, right? If we're using some hypotheses here, but let's use the hypothesis we've bought into Patch Tuesday. Let's just say we're a company that has automatic server updates every Tuesday.
Right.
Okay. So why would it be any different than to have an actual production release DevOps pipeline, a release pipeline that runs one Tuesday a month, okay, and does what you said, picks up the latest version of the framework and just deploys it out. Right, grabbing the version of the code that's currently in production, right? In other words, using the same. You'd have to recompile, so you're not using the same build, but using the same
the code.
Yeah, and have it, do that. I guess you could do something like that, and that might be interesting. Although I don't know how you change the .NET. How would the build? You have to go to the project file. Yeah, that's an interesting topic. It's interesting. Yeah, you're right. We went kind of far on that topic, but it's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And I could see that scenario of like this sort of Patch Tuesday build.
That's pretty, yeah.
Yeah, it might work, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's just crazy enough to work.
The first thing that you want to do is you want to make it so that it's not onerous to change.
Right.
Because if you don't do anything, then you're going to say, oh, well, who's going to be the person that's watching the security bulletins, and then they're going and changing the build, and then how are we going to test that? If there's a way that it just happened, then you might be more willing to say, oh, okay, well, we're fine. Like, well, there's something came across the wire. Okay, well, how did our tests do last night? They did fine. Well, good. Maybe we deploy it.
Right. Yeah, maybe you take my scenario and you do one thing more with it, which is that the build runs its tests, and it sends a message to the team. It says, hey, we got a new update for the .NET framework. Everything worked. Should we ship it?
Right.
Just to give you a little more like fuzzy goodness on it. It says, oh, we oversaw that. It didn't just happen. But if Patch Tuesday happens, why shouldn't this deployment just happen? Right?
That's a good point.
You know what? I was wondering if there's a place you could go in the near future to learn more about some of this stuff that we're talking about.
If only there was.
If only there was.
If only there was like a show.
I can think of, there's a show.
Oh, okay.
But I can think of two places you could actually physically go to learn more about this.
Like a conference, maybe?
Yeah, and
in the Northeast.
the one I might be wearing a shirt for. But before that, I would say, you know, Code Camp's Philly Code Camp's coming
Philly,
up.
Yep.
In 3 weeks?
2 weeks.
2 weeks. But if you're watching
Friday.
this, I guess the date would be more important. What's the date of that?
October 18th and 19th.
Yeah.
Yes.
So for people that, you know, watch this later.
I know because I'm counting down to when my talk has to be ready. So.
Oh, okay. You're doing a talk.
Both of us, yeah.
I'm just going to be supporting the Dev Talk Show and the streaming and stuff
Tech
like
Bash
that.
is November 11th.
November 12th to 15th.
It's close.
You know, an announcement about that, which hasn't been widely publicized, but we've had 4 breakout rooms running at a time, 4 parallel rooms, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we just added another room.
Okay.
Okay. Which makes it, there's good and bad in that. The good is that that's just a whole lot more content we're offering.
Yeah.
Makes it hard. That means more choices for you as an attendee that says, well, I have to go
to
which
have to pick one of these things.
But that means you have more great choices. And so we're adding even more content than we've ever had before, in addition to the workshops we have. And
we should, as you mentioned the workshops, we should plug the workshop that I'm giving one on serverless.
Oh, you're giving one on serverless. Yeah.
So talking about all of the serverless architectures, the serverless capabilities that we have in Azure, and how you would build applications to take advantage of those.
You want to bring me up over here?
Yeah, actually I can. Hang on. Where are you?
Uh-oh. Did I get lost? So techbash.com is where you go for all the information.
Try that.
About, no, that's him.
Oh, nice.
That is me, yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, this guy's falling apart back there.
There you go. Now
all right, that's me. Yeah, there it is. So 40 days till Tech Bash.
And 40 nights.
And 40 minutes. You got friend of the show, Jeff Fritz, doing, we like to say friend of the show, doing our keynote. We got 4 great workshops, none better than our own Rich Ross doing more with serverless. You see what he did there? Doing more
with serverless.
Serverless, yeah.
Yeah, it's good.
Had an inspiration there. There you go.
What's that?
It was an inspiring title that you
yes, it's good. So we've got some great workshops, 4 different choices. You know, we've covered DevOps, .NET Core, Web Components, and serverless. We've got, you know, so many great speakers. Oh, look, there's Chris Gomez.
There's Chris.
Yeah. I like that shot of yours. It's like not your face.
The profile.
It's, yeah. Oh, look, she likes her dog. That's cool, right? So we've got tons of great presenters coming from all around our great nation of ours. And we've got tons and tons of content to offer. Matter of fact, if I go to sessions, you can see these. I mean, it just, you know, lots and lots of sessions. Raspberry Pi and C# 8, right?
Yeah.
As an example, like, couldn't be different, you know, in some ways.
Yep.
Hey, there's yours. I just randomly landed on yours. That was totally random, right? You're doing something on the Minecraft. That sounds kind of an interesting thing.
Minecraft
Have you
scripting
written that
API.
yet?
I'm going to get started on it after Code Camp.
Yeah. But it's a cool idea, right? To show how we can do that. We talked about that on the show.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, right. So
we might end up showing some of that here to make sure that I can
well, let's
talk
we
about
can build it on this show.
Yeah,
that's a cool way to do
it.
it.
The next few weeks then.
Yeah.
Here's DevOps, continuous database delivery, you know, like all kinds of stuff. We've got JavaScript type frameworks, like Angular, React, Vue, those things. We've got a lot of Azure content. We've got a lot of what I call like real core .NET-y kind of stuff, whether it be architecture or framework stuff or tooling, like, you know, even VS Code, you know, sessions and Visual Studio tips and tricks, and it's kind of all over the place. We've got soft skills. It's a ton of great content, and I always feel like I got to say it's at the Kalahari, like the world's biggest. No, not the world's biggest. The biggest water park in the nation.
Indoor water park. Right?
Indoor water park, which may be a lie because their Texas location is gonna be like a little bit bigger, and it might be opening like this week or something. So, you know.
Biggest on the East Coast.
Biggest, but it really, the thing is huge.
There was a time when it was definitely the largest indoor water park.
Yeah. So,
in fact, I think last year it still had that status. Right?
Definitely, most definitely did.
But now that you got your browser open, let's check one more thing. What would happen if you went to the devtalkshow.com?
But before I gotta say one last thing.
Let's do one more thing.
You can get all this content. It's under $1,000. You tell your boss to send you up to the hotel for a couple of days. You get out of the office. you could start to get the wheels in motion and think about great stuff out of the office for a couple of days.
Get out of the office, bring your family, because it is a very family-friendly event.
And this is non-profit, so I'm not making money on this.
No.
But, it's just something we do. So, so if I want to get other content.
What if you went to the devtalkshow.com?
I'm going to do this here.
That doesn't exist.
That doesn't exist.
There's a show that I've heard of called the Dev Talk Show. And they might need a website, right?
You're going to tell me you put the site up without telling us?
Well, only sort of.
Okay.
We still have some work to do.
It's there.
But this is the site that we actually put from the Azure DevOps pipeline. So there's this is a redirect.
Yeah, I see you've got a redirect.
But that's just a couple Azure settings.
And latest episode's probably not right. No. So we're almost have a website?
We're almost there where... You're right. Latest episode should probably be pulling from the YouTube API. And
I had trouble making that work, by the way, when I was hacking this thing really quickly.
But if you wanted to find our archive,
how would I find
YouTube.com and some blah blah URLs are pains. But what if you went to video.thedevtalkshow.com?
Oh, right. So I got to go back to the original video. Once we get this all worked out.
Yeah, video.thedevtalkshow.com will take you right to our YouTube page where you can subscribe. And right now you can see we're talking about .NET Core 3. It's live.
Yeah.
If you subscribe, you'll get notified about new shows.
That's just cool.
And just for those folks who forget the part, devtalkshow.com works for all of this stuff too.
Well, so you got video that I didn't know we had that.
Yeah,
nice.
Yeah, just because you figure someone will forget the, and then
I might forget.
And they'll say, "Oh no, I don't know. I forgot what was the name of that site again."
Man, that was a good move.
Yeah, we have that.
That is a good move.
I don't know if the redirects for Mix or Twitch. There will be redirects.
Yeah, I tried them earlier. The Mixer's done out there.
Okay,
yeah.
What happened is my laptop died before I could finish. The DNS.
You've been having hardware issues tonight.
Yeah.
It was here. I was here.
No, it's the same one.
As Rich and Andy know, I was supposed to. Well, I did present, but I was supposed to present at tonight's Philly.net hands-on lab using my own computer, but I left the power brick at home, and when I turned it on here, I said, "Oh, look, I have 7%. I wonder how far that's going to get me."
Did I ever tell you about the time when I actually left my entire laptop at work when I walked in to do a presentation, opened up my. You at least brought your laptop before I got the power cord. That's a little less stupid than what I did, which is to say...
You had the power cord?
I had nothing. I just opened my backpack and it was empty. I should have noticed it felt a little light. But anyway.
So there you go, thedevtalkshow.com.
We gotta get this website
Next up, we'll get some captions down there for the next stream, so we could just say, come join us. But, it's been a long show. We talked about a lot of things. We talked about service hardware, .NET Core. So if you made it here to the end, thank you for joining us. And the gRPC demo was great because none of it planned at all. Andy just seemed determined, I'm just going to do it. Is that okay?
Said, we've got to try this.
Okay, let's try.
He's got a laptop. Let's go.
So please let us know what you want to learn about, whether it's .NET Core or anything else that we can cover. And we'll see if we can take it on a future show. And we keep talking about new things. So we think we probably got a lot of topics to do. Going to work on our site. That is also stuff we can work on together. And if you do like what we're doing here, please hit the like button in YouTube, subscribe to the channel for notifications, and don't be afraid to comment below and tell us what else you want to see.
Yep. Yeah. You check those out.
So anything else? Or are we good? That's a heck of a show.
It's a good show. It's been a while. We had
to skip last week.
I'm out next weekend. Next Wednesday.
Okay.
Yeah, I forgot about it. It's a Jewish holiday.
Okay.
I forgot to tell you guys. This is the first year hearing about it. You guys can do a show. I mean, you're not Jewish.
Yeah.
We'll see what we could do for next Wednesday. Follow us on Twitter and at the Dev Talk Show, and we'll should do a better job of announcing the shows there.
We should do a job.
We should do something right. But if that's it, I'll say goodbye for everybody for tonight. So for Rich Ross, thank you for everything behind the camera and getting our screens up and putting us with awesome green screen work so we can look at what we're doing. And Andy for fighting through that demo. That was great.
That was so great. It was easy.
And just hearing what both of you have to say every week is really valuable. So hope it was valuable for you. And we will see you next week on the Dev Talk Show or soon.